Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wandering Podcast, where we take advisement from outside the box. I'm Rihanna Ritter, your host. I'm an intuitive, sexuality, and authentic expression coach. Are you an accomplished professional who plays the part of having it all figured out? Who's strong for everyone else but feels lonely, misunderstood, like you can't tell anybody the truth about how stressed you are, how not passionate you are about your life and all that you've created? I guide my clients to deep, lasting fulfillment. I re-engage them with their bodies, their pleasure, their desire. I help them align to enjoy fulfillment and prosperity in all areas of their lives.
Today, my guest is Angie Leone. She is the founder of Black River Performance Management. She helps her clients ignite their purpose, their passion, and reveal their own potential. Welcome, Angie. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here today.
I'm so interested to find out how you got on the journey of Black River Performance Management. Where did the name come from, and what inspired you?
Okay, so that is a long journey. We can start with, I had worked in the operating room for many years, teaching surgical technology, which is, a lot of people think that that's the nurse in the room, but it's actually the person who helps assist the surgeon in the surgery. And so I worked in the operating room for many years, and then I taught surgical technology. And when I was working in the operating room, I really got fascinated with human behavior. And I started really learning more about emotional intelligence, especially as I started teaching students and talking with them. And I really felt like it was a skill that I wish I had known earlier, like 20 years earlier. And I started to recognize that I guess I naively thought that once you grew up and you had this degree and, you were working in a profession like nursing, anesthesiology, in this environment that everybody would be just professional and, act accordingly. I don't know why I thought this, but I didn't know anybody that had I didn't grow up in that world. I literally was the first person in my family to graduate from college. And so I had no idea what to expect, but I thought that when I went into this environment, it would be completely different and really professionals, right? And so I was naive, and I was always fascinated with the human body and fixing people. I'm kind of a wounded healer. And so, I came through a lot of trauma, and I like fixing people, whether I was fixing their knee, taking out their uterus, or, fixing their boobs or whatever. Like, I was fixing their body, and I could compartmentalize, and even getting to do heart surgery things. It was just so fascinating to see the body. Well, over time, I started really being interested in how people behaved. And I would wonder if they didn't recognize how they acted, or if they didn't know they were passive aggressive. Because what I learned is that from my trauma, I was highly socially aware, like understanding what's going on and being able to read a room and understand, oh, this is tense. This is a time when you don't ask a question. And so I really tuned into some skills that I didn't know were a superpower of mine. And so I started studying more and more and more. And lo and behold, long story short, I ended up going back to school and get my master's in human resource development, which has to do with the human side, not the benefits or the law or compliance, but all the human behavior side. And so then I really took an interest in learning more about, behaviors, emotions, drivers, what fuels us. And so that my husband and I started our company in 2017, and our belief is that work should fuel the human spirit, not drain it. And so what we do is we work with people and organizations to help encourage human flourishing in the workplace and beyond. And we know that work trickles out from the workplace, and the workplace trickles into the home life. So we like to help people understand themselves and really just discover hidden potential in people. So that's the short version.
I love that. Yeah. So I'm really interested to see, like, wouldn't it be interesting when you're operating on a person and seeing what's inside their body, like around their heart? Like, different fatty tissue, and to know the things that have happened psychologically that have created some of this stuff in the body. Is that something that you saw?
Now I'm super curious about it because I'm learning so much about how emotions, are trapped in our body, and dis-ease causes disease. And just how much how if you're familiar with Ellen Langer's work on the mindful body and how our bodies, she's incredible. So the most recent book is called The Mindful Body, that she just put out, and I was just so impressed by her research. And now that I know what I know, I wish I had known that then, and that we would be talking about that stuff. But at the time, we weren't even really talking about it. It was just fix the body, fix this problem and move on. But I do wonder, like, some of the cancers and, pain that people go through, how much of that stuff is caused by stress and anxiety and things that now we know actually are worse, or loneliness, which we know are actually worse for us than some of the things we put in our mouth, right?
Absolutely. I think it was about 20 years ago, I took a class called physiological psychology, and it was a brand new class. And I found it so fascinating because that was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, my physiology is affected by the way I'm thinking, and the way I'm thinking is affected by my physiology, and that we're in a loop, right? And Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about that stuff.
I love
How
Joe
our
Dispenza.
thoughts feed our emotions, and then our body has a sensation as a result. And then every time we have that sensation, then we remember that emotion, and then the thoughts come back, and then they can feed each other, and we can get really addicted to stress. And yeah, so that's something that I have known for a while, but I couldn't apply it to myself.
Mhm. I know that.
Really,
That's relatable. It's
yeah. So
always easy
you,
to help other people, isn't it?
oh yeah. Being a wounded healer, like the Chiron kind of energy. You mentioned that you are the first in your family to. I had the same story in my mind about entering the professional environment. I was like, because I was the first one to get a degree in my family, I thought I would go out there and like these people were superior to me. My dad told me when I was little, I was 5 or 4, and I started talking about how I'm going to college, and he said, "Oh, we're not college people, we're ground pounders." And so that created a belief in my
Yeah.
head that we're not on that level with those people. But I automatically, my little inner rebel was like, well, maybe you are, but I'm not. I was like, I'm going to college. And so, but I had that expectation that everybody would be emotionally intelligent, they'd be emotionally regulated. When you're a child growing up in like with a traumatic environment, like you mentioned, becoming highly attuned, highly sensitive to social situations, being able to read a room. Like I was the youngest of 6 kids, but I was trying to put out the fires before they started. So I was perceiving the stress that everybody was about to go through, and I would interfere and like become this parentified child. And so interesting to think that I'm so far behind, and I'm going to go enter this professional environment, and everybody's going to be like, it's going to be easy for me, it's going to be peaceful. And then the shock that came with finding out that wasn't exactly how it was.
I was shocked too. And the funny part, or the odd part about the operating room that people don't know is it's like the patients are asleep. So, well, we know that, but so it's kind of like the Vegas of the hospital, right? Like people don't know what happens in there. Nobody gets to go. Like if you go to the hospital, you see how the nurse treats people, or you see how the doctor is if they have bedside manner. But in the operating room, it's highly stressful. So different things fly. And so I didn't know this back then, but I wish I knew what I knew now about the tools and all the things that I've learned over the years. But literally, I didn't even know that environment was actually triggering me. and that I was fearful to make a mistake, and was people pleasing and doing things like that to just make sure that I didn't upset anyone or have anyone mad or upset with me. And so it was exhausting, not to mention I didn't even know what kind of environment I needed to work in. Like if you think about, I like the outside and I like sunlight and I'm basically solar powered. And so I learned that even though I loved helping people, being in a building for 12 hours a day, 10 hours a day, or going to work in the dark and coming out in the dark, or working in a basement all day really affected my emotional health.
Yeah, and your physical health. I'm also a big believer in getting out into the sun. Like I don't find the sun scary.
Yeah.
I don't think it's killing me. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's so what led you to be the first in your family to become this professional, to get the degree, to what was that journey like for you?
That's the first time somebody's asked me that question, but I really think it was inside of me. You said the word inner rebel. I think that I already knew that I was going to do a different kind of life. I just knew that people could do it better. And I had a really great hero in my life, my Aunt Babe. And she always talked to me about getting my education. Her and my uncle, talked about getting my education, that's one thing that nobody could ever take from me. And then I remember talking to my high school counselor, and he told me that I didn't have good grades in high school, and he told me, because I was going through so much trauma and whatnot, and he told me, you're not smart enough to go to college. You should go to beauty school. And
Oh.
yeah, and I remember thinking, F you. First
Yeah,
off,
thank goodness.
first off, and I will, and so that actually kind of lit a fire in me to actually do it anyways. And so I think it was kind of, he never found out that I ever went to college, and I didn't do it for him. I did it for myself. Just like somebody tell me I couldn't do something, I'm very rebellious, and I think that actually lights a fire. It makes me really sad to think of how many people he might have told that actually believed that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it didn't stop me, and I had the support of my aunt and uncle, and they would help me if I enrolled in school. They'd help me get my books, or they'd say, you can live with us, or you can, we'll try to help you. We want to make sure you get your school. So having some people that believe in me. And then once I started school, of course, there's always so many people that you find that support you and see your gifts before you do. So surrounding myself with people who could see my talents before I could see mine, or could believe in me before I believed in myself. I really believe that was part of it. But I had this inner drive to just be like, I'm going to do it better. It doesn't mean that I didn't mess up along the way, because holy mackerel, I've got some cringy Angie times.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can imagine that comment from that counselor, like, oh, like please people, if you hate the idea of doing a job like being a high school counselor, don't do it. It's not the right fit.
Yeah.
But I could imagine it planting like seeds of imposter syndrome. So like for me, going through college and in my corporate career, I had a lot of imposter syndrome coming up.
Me
uh,
too. Yeah,
yeah.
a lot to overcome. In fact, I was just doing a talk about that last week. And like, I think when you I had 8 out of 10 adverse childhood experiences. So if you take the ACEs quiz, like it's pretty much almost all of them, right?
Yeah.
And so I really just didn't think I was enough. And being born to a teenage mom, she was 16. I knew I was not wanted. I wasn't a planned pregnancy. I knew I was unwanted. And I actually, at one point, she told me that I wasn't. And so that really messed with me, and I had to overcome those beliefs, because I really know those weren't truths. I really know that she was wounded and doing the best she could, and the things, but I didn't understand that at the time. And I had a lot of anger and a lot of resentment and a lot of, Yeah, that's when I kind of, your 20s, you kind of go off the rails on that stuff. But then, life happens and you go through a bunch of different things, and then you start to heal and you start to look at, and you can only be in the victim mindset for so long. So I had to really come to the point of, I'm no longer a victim and I'm acting like one. But that came later, once I brought kids and a marriage into it, right? And then I had other work to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I constantly am finding myself in a victim mindset. Like I've done a lot of work and taken myself out of the victim triangle more times than I can.
Yeah.
But the ACEs quiz, I think I'm right around that same number as you. So that's a lot of stuff to peel back and peel off, and um, it takes tenacity and dedication, and really, I guess it takes a lot of self-love to drive yourself through it, and so we might think that, oh, I have all this, I have a really strong inner critic, but
Mhm.
I have all this work to do. But when you think about like how much you've already overcome and how committed you are to your own healing, that means that you already have a really deep sense of yourself and a deep love for yourself. Um, I'm curious what the transition from the operating room to having your own company was like for you.
Well, it was kind of a slower transition because I worked in higher ed for quite a few years before. So I didn't just straight go from the operating room. I really went from there to education, which then kept me in the hospital. So I was slowly removing myself, and then I was there, but I was going to school and I was there for my students. But eventually it just came to a point of, I made a move to the other side of the state, and that job wasn't available anymore. So I took a job at another university, and it was only a few months before I recognized, well, actually I took a sales rep job first, and then I went to another university, and I just wasn't fitting in any of those. I really loved the job that I had in Boise working, and then the other ones, they just weren't a good fit. And I knew it at this point in my life. I knew what a good fit was and what it wasn't. Plus, so I was like, I'm ready to do this. I love this work. And in 2016, I started doing a lot of personal development, and I learned about emotional intelligence. I mean, writing papers on it, and I was taking coaching courses, and I was doing all kinds of stuff in my master's program. And I just was like, this is the kind of work I want to do. It fuels me. I love it. It's still helping people, but it's helping them in a more not meaningful way, but more of a everyday sort of way, where these are life skills. I hate the term soft skills. They're essential skills, or they're actually the hard skills, because nobody seems to be able to do them.
That's true.
And but the soft skills is the thing that I think, if I had a magic wand, emotional intelligence is the skill that I wish everybody had, just to understand themselves, understand their emotions, recognize they're not bad, they're just signposts, and understanding, I had so much shame and so much resentment and anger and just all kinds of bottled up stuff that was really killing me. I mean, I'm so glad that I've released all that, and still, I mean, life keeps happening, but I have tools to navigate, right? It's like, now I understand what's going on with myself, why, what, all the things that I just didn't get early on.
Yeah. And what are some of your favorite tools, or the ones you go to like regularly? We've got the big tools like a sweat lodge or a plant medicine ceremony. And we've got like the daily tools, right?
Yeah. So as far as regulating my emotions,
Yeah.
probably asking myself questions, the pause when I feel myself be triggered, or, what am I gonna do? It's the pause, and then ask myself, do I need to say this? Does this need to be said? Does this need to be said by me? And does this need to be said right now? And still, sometimes it comes out, and I'm just like, because of the family I grew up in, I'm not one that sits there and thinks, oh, I should have said this. I'm one that has to bite my tongue, and literally it'll bleed, because I already have it and I have a comeback for everything. I just don't want to let my ego take over. And so and I don't want to have something that I regret. So, and when I do, I hate that feeling of, oh my gosh, I know better and I didn't do better, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, and so that's asking myself questions or putting things into perspective. And just knowing right out that what my triggers are, first of all, and then knowing that that's my responsibility. Those are things I need to heal. Those aren't anybody else's. And if people know your triggers, they're gonna try to step on them. And
Oh, yeah.
so I've taken accountability for my feelings and my triggers and my all of that. And the more I practice it, the better I get. What I can say is I haven't arrived. I think it's a lifelong journey. And the more I practice, though, the shorter the distance that I am upset is, and or whatever the emotion is. But we really don't like to be upset. So that's the one I try to minimize and get to a point of surrendering and allowing life to be as it is and not how I wish it was or think it should be or whatever, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned a few things there that are really important, like the pause. When I'm noticing that my triggers, like I'm pretty aware of them. I'm pretty aware of where they've come from. And I can shorten that distance, like you said, but there are times still, which will be forever, that I get into the story and I get lost in it and it gets really sneaky and it sneaks up from under and it gives me this big story. And if I don't take that pause, and now sometimes the pause needs to be a couple days,
yeah,
like recognizing this is really sneaky and I'm really in a story right now and I need to we don't value pausing in our culture, right? We're fast paced now. And my regrets always happen when I don't take that pause and because I can hear the story and I know the story is false. And yet I'm like, I'm in it and I believe it.
Yeah, one phrase that is stuck into my mind, maybe this will help you. And so when I catch myself, and I was doing it this morning, I was listening to my own story and I thought about this phrase, nothing has meaning until you give it meaning.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely.
otherwise it's just something that happened. It's just a circumstance. It just happened. And I'm assigning all this meaning to it, that they meant this, or this is what it was. And I started to feel that I was in the story and my mind was just going down that rabbit hole. And I was like, whoa. Nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. So what meaning do you want to give this? How about they were just tired or they didn't, it had nothing to do with you and whatever.
Yeah.
And so, it's catching myself earlier, I would say.
Yeah.
Is,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't flip
And
out on people and I don't fight people anymore. So that's good.
yeah. That is really good. And the thought that like there are unlimited possibilities right now. Like the
Yeah.
story that I have just assigned to it, the meaning that I've just given it, there are unlimited other possibilities.
Right.
Yeah. And so I think about like I'm definitely not, I'm kind of anti-religious, but I think about the scripture, lean not on your own understanding. It has become new to me. Like the meaning of that is so new because our mind is a processor that just takes note of what happened and then bases everything in the future on the past, what happened in the past. And so it doesn't leave room for the unlimited possibilities that are in front of us. It's just like, I got to keep your body alive. So we're going to assume that this is going to go down the way that it went down the last time.
Yep.
And so when you say something like, nothing has meaning until I give it meaning, or lean not on your own understanding, recognize that the understanding that I have in my mind is only based on the past. And I can start feeling into my body. Like if my body is saying yes to something, I can trust that. It's my body tells me no. And when I ignore that, it's always the wrong choice. But, you know, because we've been conditioned that our body leads us into temptation and that we shouldn't trust it. And if we've had trauma, like sexual trauma or physical abuse, and our body has responded in a way that society deems is inappropriate for that situation, we learn very young not to trust our body and that our body is giving us the wrong information. And that's not true. Our body's just taking on sensation. It works the way it's supposed to work, and it gives us a lot of really valuable information. And so like when we're doing things like somatic healing and we're releasing a lot of that trauma, we can start trusting the body again. Have you done, you know, some of that? I think you were talking
Some of it. I'm in that phase of life now where I'm more interested. I have a little bit more time than I used to, and I'm into exploring lots of different things now. I just had my first sound bath, and like I'm willing to try different things and see you know, what helps. I've done some somatic yoga and things like that, and I mean, the possibilities are endless. And, you know, whenever I am having pain, I'm curious, is this some trapped emotion that needs to come out? And, you know, there's magnets, there's all kinds of different tools, and I'm open to try whatever works. And I really do believe that the mind plays a huge role on it, especially after reading Ellen Langer's work, The Mindful Body. It's incredible.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to read that.
Yeah. She was on the Rich Roll podcast recently, and then I saw her on, I've seen her at MEA, Modern Elder Academy. I've seen some of her work on there. And so I was interested, and now I'm like, I just bought the book for my mother-in-law and sent it to her because she was having some health issues. So like, just the more we know, the better we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's making me think of the book by Carolyn Mace, Energy Anatomy. Like it talks about, you know, so many of our physical symptoms are really based on emotion and energy and unprocessed things,
Yeah.
unprocessed pain, emotional pain.
Mm-hmm.
So you have recently dove into hosting retreats.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of retreat it is and what that experience has been like?
Yeah. So my husband and I have led a lot of corporate retreats or board development retreats, those types where people are learning about themselves, their behaviors, or maybe where they're just doing a strategic planning. We've done all of that kind of stuff. But I did my first women's retreat that was focused on a curriculum called Lotus, which is, and I did it with a couple of friends, which is love, openness, truth, unity, and surrender. And so we used the curriculum, and we went into the Grand Tetons, a very beautiful place. And, you know, we did some paddleboarding down the river. We did yoga, sound baths, hiking, bringing research about emotions from Dacher Keltner on his research on awe and finding awe out in nature every day. So we literally had an amazing time. We had a little bit of rain, but it didn't stop us. The women, we talked about, you know, self-limiting beliefs and those types of things. And it was incredible. And I really love that opportunity. I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough space to reflect, and oftentimes we're not in the right environment either. And so sometimes just changing our habitat, you know, can change our habits, and changing, being around a really supportive group of women and in a container where they can feel safe and share, and everybody's rooting them on, is a really incredible feeling. And I had a cousin that came on the retreat, and I think she had some big ahas on that retreat, and we definitely got some funny sayings, and we really all bonded. And I think everybody was like, oh my gosh, we should do this with our husbands. Can you do a couples retreat? And we're like, for sure, like we can absolutely do a couples retreats. And my husband's happy to do men's retreats too. So couples retreats are in the works. But like I said, before this, we've always done corporate retreats. But I think there's value and there's different content when it's a personal retreat than what you can do in a corporate retreat.
Yeah, I'm curious how it might be to bring some of those elements to a corporate retreat, like, because it's so often, I think you mentioned, like being in a building for 12 hours, going in when it's dark, coming out when it's dark, like not getting to be having to be in front of a computer all day. It's
Mhm.
really not good for our bodies, our energy, our emotions. Uh, so it'd be really nice to see corporate clients embrace the idea that we can go outside and, travel and do things other than, I don't know, restaurants, team building where we're all dressed in stuffy suits and having conversations that are 100% from the mind. Like,
Yeah, I agree. And I have seen some organizations do it well, and they really do a retreat. We have to get specific on our language because some people do think a retreat is going to a restaurant. And I'm like, this is really a workshop and it's just offsite. So let's get specific on what a retreat means to you and what a retreat means to me. And a retreat to me means more like there will be some work, but it's mostly going to be reflecting and having some intentions, and it's time to slow down and really get out of your environment. The workshop would be, we're working, you're going to be here working today and we're going to be on site or whatever. And but retreat, usually is a couple days and there's some free time to do some activities and just slow down and get out of your environment. So I do think that there are some organizations, and I've been working with a lot of nonprofits that are seeing the value because they're getting so burned out, right? Like they are just giver, 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 and they're constantly pushing, and it's to the point, they're very altruistic and they're very selfless and they love helping, but sometimes to the point of their own detriment of their own health. And I have seen some nonprofit CEOs say, my team is burned out, they're overwhelmed, I think we're doing this wrong. We're serving everybody, but we're not serving our team well. They're serving the public, but they're not really taking the time to recognize how burned out they are and recognizing that they're their first customers, and how they treat each other and how they show up impacts those ripples of impact. If they're not taking care of themselves and they're burned out and you can feel their energy, they're not going to have the impact in the community because they're burnt out and they're negative or they're tired or they can't, or they're just, they hit this, I can't do another thing. And it's like, they're not refreshed and they don't have any more to give, to the point where oftentimes their health is the one thing that makes them have to slow down. They get sick.
yeah, absolutely. Like put your oxygen mask on first, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, when
It's
I was,
easier said than done. It's one of those other things
yeah,
that's easier said than done, and it's easy for me to say to you, but and you'd be easy for you to say to me, but the practice of actually doing it and showing it to the people that work for us too is like, no, it's important. Put your health first, take care of yourself, all those types of things.
yeah, it's interesting to watch myself, like, just having that corporate training, that whole life as an employee, right up until the last 6 years when I started my own company and decided to manage my own hours. Like at the beginning, I thought I had to sit at the desk from 9 to 5. Like I had to man my desk. My clients needed me to be chained to it and
Mhm.
doing accounting all day. And there was like all this to grow the business. I had to go out and network. And
Mhm.
I felt really uncomfortable being seen in public at networking events where I considered I was just socializing. I wasn't working, and feeling like, oh my gosh, if I see one of my clients here, they're going to be like, why aren't you sitting at the desk clocking your hours? It was such an interesting belief to observe.
How
I
weird.
was,
Isn't it weird?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then even recently, because now I've started another business, like having to going and exercising and doing my, like I spend an hour walking in the morning, noticing this very sneaky, subtle, quiet self-judgment for like, why are you should be at the desk working, making sure the sales are there. And I'm like, wait a minute, when did working out become a problem?
Yeah. Yeah. I have noticed that my inner critic doing that too. And I have a friend that we talk about that too. And the funny part is you go out and you do something, you actually meet somebody new at the gym who comes up to you and is like, hey, I've been meaning to reach out to you. Or, you know, you're on a walk and you see somebody in that, like, I always make the connections I need to, the business connections, when I'm not behind my computer posting on social media. When I'm out in the community, when I'm doing things, is when I actually make the kind of connections that I need to make.
Yeah, absolutely. And like holding a retreat, also a belief that a lot of us carry is that work has to be hard and that it's not something that we enjoy. But like when I just held a women's retreat or facilitated at one, it was the best day. It was so much fun, and making those connections were so important. And then to feel like, yeah, that is my work. Like I'm enjoying my work and
Yeah,
that's okay.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny how we get caught up in those kinds of things. And it's just like you said, it's just a belief. And we have to be cognizant of, like, where did that come from? I wonder where I got that. Like,
Yeah.
it's programmed because of places we've worked or what our parents thought about work or whatever. And to just question and say, is that serving me now? Or do I want to hold on to that belief? That's a lot of the work that we did at the retreat, is like, let's talk about your beliefs and let's get rid of some of those and let's replace them with a belief that would better serve you now.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to do that with facilitation, with a guide, with community, because we can't see ourselves. Like the beliefs that we have, they've been there forever, and we think that they're true.
Yeah.
So it's really nice to have someone reflect and be like, actually, that's not my experience. That doesn't sound supportive. Like you can make a different choice.
Yeah.
That's not all that's available.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that work. And I love that we're so aligned on all this stuff. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think it could be fun to do a retreat together.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I liked, my retreat was focused on women's embracing their sexuality, understanding that pleasure is a priority for us. I think as we're growing up as children, we get shown that pleasure is distasteful. It's not okay. We can be like really excited and boisterous and loud, and then we get shut down as kids. Like, shh, that's too much. You're being too loud. You're being too wild. And kids touching themselves, touching each other. No, 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 don't do that. That's not allowed. That's bad. So and growing up with really intense religion, um, a lot of us don't even realize, the messages that we received through religion, that our sexuality is really, like, for me, I had some programming that my sexuality was about my partner. It wasn't
Mhm.
about my pleasure. It wasn't about me. Like I needed to reserve any pleasure for him,
Mhm.
or just like sex as an obligation rather than to keep the marriage going. Like, oh, women don't have a sex drive, it's the men have the sex drive and we're just here to meet their needs. And so our retreat was focused on, no, that's all a bunch of nonsense. And so many women were like, wait, what? Oh my
Wow.
gosh. I wasn't taught that pleasure was a priority for me, or that this is mine and that it belongs to me and it's about me. And yeah, and dropping our masks in front of each other, because we as women, well, I think men do it too with each other, trying to show up in a certain way. Like, I'm a
Mhm.
super mom and the business is great and everything's perfect. And so,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Absolutely. I love it. I think that would be we could go down a whole nother topic on that one. And I think that's really important for empowerment and just for self-love and just for understanding that you're human and this is all part of the human experience. And those retreats are really good opportunities because it's probably not, like you said, we talked about earlier, it's not something we're going to talk about at work. And,
Yeah.
and HR frowns on that. So
Yeah, they do.
so there's conversations that, you know, we want to have, and you got to get in that right environment for people that are willing, like you said, to lead the conversation and to open that container and have a space for them to share about what their human experience is and know that they're not alone. I think that's the biggest myth, is that we're alone and we're the only one having the struggle.
Oh yeah, yeah. And you mentioned a couples retreat, like to have so many of these couples are going to find out that they've got a lot of the same beliefs, a lot of the same programming. And I mean, what I find too with men on, I lead a sacred sexuality call, and we're really talking about like our programming, our trauma, and like where are we in our journey, how do we embrace our sexuality, how do we bring more pleasure to it, how do we accept ourselves and like remove the body shame.
Right.
And men, like they have desires and they feel like a predator for having the desire. And I was taking a guy through a journey of like, what if actually that isn't a problem? Like, what if that's actually okay for you to want? And he was like, and I was like, have you ever actually admitted to yourself what you really, really want? Like, just to say it to yourself, what you, and he was like, no, no. So it's not, you know, it's universal. We're all repressed. We have a lot of shame, and kind of releasing it is so liberating. Once it's scary to approach it, but then once you kind of see it and you release it, you're like, nah, that wasn't really that big of a deal.
Yeah,
Like,
it's mostly in our heads. A lot of stuff is bigger in our heads than what it really is.
yeah,
Fear. It's that fear, right? It's understanding the fears and what the stories we make up about what would happen. Usually it's way less than what actually does happen.
exactly. Yeah, I find that to be true almost every time. Like the
Yeah.
you
In
make
all
up,
areas of life, and not just
yeah,
there, but like most areas, people are more flexible than we actually, I think, give them credit. I think we think they're gonna think we're an awful human being, and so, or maybe that has happened, and so that happened one time in your life, so we think that everybody else is gonna be that way too.
yeah. And we do tend to remember the negative experience more than the positive. So,
For
you
sure.
know, you're probably having so many positive experiences, but that one negative one is, and that's again the mind, you know, that's what the mind is programmed to focus on to keep us alive. So it's really good to clear that mind and reconnect with the body and the creative energy, the sexual energy that we have. And so that's like exciting, rewarding work for me.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, you said that you do some executive coaching. You're moving more toward the retreats. Do you prefer the retreats? Tell me.
Yeah, I do prefer facilitation. I prefer speaking and then doing more like group coaching, like say I have a course on emotional intelligence or self-leadership or something like that, where I have a group, a cohort, and we have some materials that we're covering and then group coaching. But for for the real one-on-one or personal in-depth dive, I think you need more than, you know, an hour here or two. I think you need a few days to just like reset. And I think yearly at the minimum, like I'm really a fan of myself going on one where I pay and go to somebody else's retreat at least once a year. But also leading a couple, you know, and then my husband we do our own. We go and we get like, we'll be gone for a few days this week where we will just be out of service and we'll be talking about our stuff, our business, our life, like our goals, you know, do a little SWOT analysis, but literally, I just think that people don't recognize that time is super important to set aside to really, and then to have somebody to, because a lot of things you can't do yourself. You can't recreate things. You can't just go do it with your friends. You need that container and that environment of somebody who knows the stuff, right? Like the topic that you're interested in. And so somebody that can facilitate well and help you in that journey, and also is there to help you navigate those transitions that you're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you also mentioned, I also like to go to retreats myself too, because yeah, it frees up that, kind of interrupts that mental chatter that's so repetitive and keeps us stuck in the same patterns. We leave those retreats feeling like spacious and refreshed. You mentioned that you have a book that you're working on.
Yes,
Talk about that.
I don't have a title yet, and it's really interesting because I always knew I wanted to write a book and kind of share the story, but then my imposter syndrome or my ego got in the way, really, of just thinking who would want to listen to my book or who would want to hear my story and what's that all about. And I really I had a moment this year where I was at a retreat. And I was at Modern Elder Academy in Baja, California, and I'm sitting there next to Dacker Keltner. I went to his retreat because I wanted to learn about emotions, and he was specifically talking about awe and how it can transform your life. And his book on awe had just come out. Well, it was dinner time, and I had told him that, I was fangirling basically and saying, I'm just really a fan of your work and thank you for what you've done. And I had 8 out of 10 adverse childhood experiences, and I'm just so grateful for knowing about emotional intelligence and all this. And he said, wow, you should write a book. You should share your story. You should share your journey. And I was sitting next to him and Jeff, who's one of the founders at Modern Elder Academy. And Jeff said, that's your ego. That's your ego speaking. And he said, what if it doesn't have to be a New York Times bestseller? What if it's just an offering? What if somebody gains something from your book or from you sharing your story? Wouldn't that be worth it? And I was like, oh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. Oh, good. Now it was like I needed that. And then it was the coaching I needed and an external person to just call me, because I get to do that for people all the time, but I have to really put myself in front of people that will call me out or will see a different perspective. And so that retreat for me, and Rob and I went on it together, and yeah, so now I'm doing it. I'm working on it, and who knows, maybe a piece of this will be in it, because I'm exploring and figuring out like what stories I want to share. Definitely have the ACEs in there, and call it my high scale counselor, but this is all part of that journey, and I'm just grateful to be here today and to get to share that, because like I said, I usually am behind my guests, and I'm not sharing my story as much as I think I need to. So I appreciate it.
Yeah. And it really is awesome when you can, just even help one person, right?
Yeah.
And even the process of writing it can be so impactful for you, so healing for you. I've been working on one for 4 years, and I'm just like, I don't know what direction this is going.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, this might be pause. Like, I have a lot written and I'm not sure where I'm going with it. So I'm going to hold for a minute. But yeah, it's really wonderful to have you on. I'm so interested to read about your adverse child experiences. Trauma is it's my area of interest. We had a sharing circle at our retreat, and some of the women got really deep with their stories and they shared them with us. And for some of the women in the room, it was triggering. But for me, I'm like, this is so natural. This is what we need to be doing.
Yeah.
We need to be talking about these things, because hiding them, sweeping them up under the rug just keeps perpetuating it.
Yeah. And I'm a real big proponent of, we have all heard of post-traumatic stress, but I'm a huge fan of understanding there's literally post-traumatic growth as well. And we can take advantage of that. Whenever we have trauma, then we can actually use it as a springboard for growth. And that's what I really feel like I'm into that phase of life now.
Oh, that's beautiful. I haven't even heard of that post-traumatic growth.
Yeah. Everybody's heard of PTSD, but not many people have heard of post-traumatic growth. And on another time, I'll have to share with you a story about, well, we'll just have to do more. We'll have to do more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I did see that you had a spiritual awakening. And so maybe I should just have you on my podcast because I had one as well. And but that's probably another 30-minute story.
Okay. Yeah.
So we can have another conversation. You can be on my podcast if you'd like.
Yeah, I would love to hear about that experience,
Yeah.
the whole experience, the spiritual awakening. I mean, it's still going, right? Because it
Yeah, it is. It's still going, but like there's different things that happen, I think, that kind of crack you open a little bit more and more,
Yeah. Yeah. Do you want to share a little bit about like one of the things that cracked
Well,
you?
yeah, it literally was just getting in a boating accident on the Snake River, like our boat overturned, and just not knowing if you're gonna make it, and then watching your friends and being helpless and trying to rescue yourself and trying to help rescue them and not knowing what's going on, and it was just really a scary moment for all of us. And it brings things really into clarity. And then for that week afterwards, I mean, there was a lot that went on in that, but also for the week afterward, like the next day I had a really vivid dream, and it was during an eclipse. And I just felt like I had this voice of God, or just like literally saying compassion, seeing the people through this lens of compassion, and that is what your work is to do. And I could see people's faces and this rivers going into this ocean of consciousness. It was really woo-woo, but it was my experience. Like it was one of these things where I'm like, so this is happening. So I have a near-death like life experience, then I'm having the dreams, and ever since then, like I've really been crystal clear on that I'm in the right line of work, and I'll get goosebumps when I'm having the right kinds of conversations. I had them a couple of times. I learned in Dakars in my retreat that goosebumps are actually a sign of awe. And so whenever we have goosebumps, it's a sign of awe, and there's different pillars of it. But I was almost in a death thing, and then the dreams, and it really helped me to see the world and even people that I struggle with through more of a lens of compassion than, even though they might irritate me or, whatever, or I wish they would do better, but I just really know that they're just doing the best they can, actually, even if I don't like what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I look back at my mom and my family and my upbringing, and I really do think oftentimes they were doing the best they could. That really is, and I have so much more compassion. And I used to kind of be on the self-righteous or the judgmental place, and I've learned over time that that's a really lonely place up on the high horse.
Oh yeah, yes, I have been there.
I don't like self-righteousness like in me. That's one of the ones that I've really been trying to, and when I catch myself, I'm like, okay, that's not who I want to be. That's not how I want to show up. That's not my best Angie, right?
Yeah, it really doesn't feel good.
It doesn't. I know everybody recognizes it too, and they're like, oh yeah. So
yeah, that's a really scary experience, and I just want to ask a lot more details, but we're running out of time. So we are gonna do this again, and I'm looking forward to it. How do people find you, and if there's any words of wisdom you want to leave with the audience?
Okay, so you can find me at blackriverpm.com, and you can just go to About Us, and there's more, and you can You could find me on LinkedIn. You could find me on social under the Leader You podcast. And the words of wisdom that I would probably share today is you're your biggest investment, literally. And it's when you invest in yourself, it's actually not just about you. It's about the people that you come in contact with every day. The better you are, the better you are for your family, the better you are for your work, your coworkers. Take the time, invest in yourself, believe in yourself because you're worth it. And um, even though you think you can't afford it or you don't have time, if you really want something, you can make it happen. And people, you'd be amazed when you take those steps. Scholarships can be available, doors will open, but you really just have to say yes to doing it and then figure out how afterwards.
I love that. So many times I was like, I need this. I have to have this. And then the how came later. And I wasn't even the one that figured it out. I was just like, universe, God, get me to this place. And it was like, okay, the money shows up, the time shows up, whatever you need.
Yeah.
The teacher, when the student's ready, the teacher appears.
Teacher appears. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me today. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, and I definitely want to have you on too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.